Finally, we get to talk about another gaming console today, and this is actually one of the first gaming consoles I've ever owned, and it was actually more than that. This was the one that I've used pretty much from when I got it to like when I entered like high school. I was using this thing all the time. I think I got it in like the 4th grade, and then like I eventually kept it until like way later, and it's so crazy. And we're talking about the Nintendo DS Lite, and the DS Lite actually turns 14 this year. So some of you guys who are watching this, I know my audience can be kind of fickle. Sometimes they're younger, sometimes they're older. I make my videos for older audience, just remember that. But some of you who might be watching this video might actually be younger or the same age as the Nintendo DS Lite, which is so crazy to think about. I've had mine for about 12 years, and it's actually the same exact one that you're looking at, the black DS Lite. I've owned this one since I got it. It was actually gifted to me by my family, and even just looking around, it's still in pretty decent condition. I'm surprised. I've beaten this thing, I've thrown it around by accident. I take care of my devices, but sometimes you never know. I dropped it, things like that, and honestly it's held up very, very well, and I'm actually super surprised about that. And I think that's one of the best things that DS or Nintendo even got right. If you looked at the original Nintendo DS, and I've already done a video of that one early, just like last week, you would see that they took a huge initiative at shrinking down the size and making it look very, very good. Okay, compared to what we had in the market, even phones at the time, they didn't even look as good as the DS Lite. They really knocked it out of the park, and I'm actually really, really happy that Nintendo was able to do that. They really, really did a great job at it. Now, if you open it up, you can see that we do have that dual screen technology. This is what Nintendo DS, the dual screen counterpart, came into, and you have the screen up the top and the bottom. They're both the same size. I do know that with the DS, the 3DS, they eventually changed the screen sizes, but with this one, they're exactly the same. And looking at them now, I mean, yes, they're extremely small. Like, there's really no other way to go about it. They seemed so big at the time, maybe because I was a smaller version of myself at that time, but when I was using it, I wasn't really complaining about the screen sizes. The only times I saw myself kind of complaining was when, the PSP, when I would play a PSP, when I would use it, I would be like, man, like, I want to use this one instead of the DS Lite. That one has a bigger screen, better graphics, so much more you can do with it, Wi-Fi, internet and things like that. But with the DS Lite, I'm glad I never changed or traded or anything like that, because, I had a really, really great time with it. Now, I'm sure you all are familiar with the gaming system. You can't really do much outside of playing games. There were ways, if you had the R4 card, which I actually have a tutorial on my channel of how to install one that's actually doing really well. I made that in 2017 and still getting a ton of views. But I think I might have to take that down because I don't want Nintendo taking that video down. But you had things like PictoChat, which, allowed you to hit up, girls in different classrooms. I've been using that joke for so many years now. And you can talk to them back in the day. But really, other than the settings page, there really wasn't much going on it in terms of just using it as anything other than a gaming console. And of course, with the DSi and DSi XL, Nintendo really switched that up. They allowed you to have like that dedicated app store, Nintendo eShop, whatever they called it, as well as having like that internet browser and having the cameras. It really allowed it to be more than just a physical gaming console or a portable gaming console. It allowed it to be like a media device. And with that Nintendo DSi, you were able to put in an SD card, and they really do. The DSi was one of the biggest jumps, I think, from one gaming console to another. I wish they just changed up the design a little bit, or actually they didn't change out the outside. The DS Lite looked much better than the DSi, and it was like on par with the 3DS and things, but the DS Lite really looked so good on the outside. Now, one of the dopest things about the DS Lite, especially in 2020 and going forward, would definitely be the game selection. There's just literally so many games out there for this thing, and that's why so many people love the Nintendo DS and just the DSi and just the DS line in general. There's just so many games you can play for this thing. There's like probably hundreds of thousands, probably millions of games, and you have to think about how long the DS line was, going on for. So you had the Nintendo DS, which came out in 2004, the Nintendo DS Lite that came out in 2006, and then the Nintendo DSi that came out whenever it came out. I don't remember when it came out, but probably a couple years after that. So you had a multiple years of games for this thing, and I kind of attribute this thing to like the Xbox One lineup. There's so many Xbox One games, there were so many Xbox 360 games, there's so many Nintendo Wii games. Like, this thing, without a doubt, definitely had a ton going forward, and rightfully so. There's just so many games out for this thing, and the better thing is that, maybe I shouldn't even be saying this because I don't want this video taken down, but if you do have that R4 card, or you have some type of emulation ROM card, or flash card, I think they call it, you can easily go flash some ROMs onto your actual cartridge, put that in, and then be set and be able to travel with your games all the way without having to bring all of them. Now, obviously, You should only be downloading games that you legally own. I've done that. I only do it because it's more portable. I don't have to bring 50 games with me if I want to go. But you have that capability with this device, which is literally amazing. You know, PSPs had it too, and the PS Vitas and 3DSs, they all have these things too. But with the DS Lite, just playing those games is so cool. And that's why it's so awesome when you have like a DS emulator on your iPhone or Android, you're just able to play those things, and it's just so cool. The games are just one of the best gaming selections out there. They weren't graphically intensive, they weren't too crazy, but they did have awesome story modes, and I definitely am a person who definitely likes the story mode aspects more than just like graphics. You know, I think graphics are cool and everything, but having that build up to the storyline and everything are really cool, and I've always found Nintendo games do a much better job of that than some Sony games here and there. So now, kind of moving on from that, I think the best thing about the DS Lite is that they're super cheap. Some people, you know, might just say, just get an emulator, you know, just go for your MacBook or PC or whatever and just get a DS emulator. Well, that's a good idea too, but ultimately it doesn't mimic the actual feeling in your hands of, you know, a console like this. And since it's so cheap, I would just literally just get a console itself. I would just pick up this console. They're like $20, probably less than that in decent condition. You can pick them up super cheap from Japan if you go to eBay's Japan like site or whatever. Or even if you just go sort by DS Lite cheapest to newest. In 2020, these things are going for nothing. I literally picked up like a DSi for like $7 one time. It took like a month to get here, but I wasn't in any rush. I didn't really care. Another super cool thing about the DS Lite is that the battery life is very, very good. You can literally set this thing aside for months and come back to it and it will still be at the same charge level. Now, the battery has probably degraded. I know I talk about this a lot on my iPhone reviews and Android reviews, but batteries do degrade over time. But I don't know when Nintendo did, but you know, this battery, I still feel like it's at 100% right now. Like it's not, it totally lasts just as long as I need to make it last, and it's actually really, really cool. Even when you're playing games, it doesn't really drain the battery that fast either, which is a humongous asset for this phone. And it uses the same charging port as like the DSi and 3DS and all those things, so it's not like it's proprietary to that. So I definitely do appreciate that for sure. And this isn't the only cheaper device that plays DS games. You know, the DSi, the DSi XL, those consoles are pretty cheap. You can even pick up a 3DS for pretty cheap nowadays too, you know, and all those games play DS games, and that's super cheap, and that actually has much bigger screens. And that also has great battery life as well. I would probably recommend you to pick up a DSi XL over a DS Lite. But to kind of sum up the whole entire video, man, I will say, like I've said before, I'm in the same boat as last year. If you have it now, I wouldn't sell it. If you don't have one, before I would say I would probably wouldn't buy it because, you know, it just kind of seems like an extra step if you can go buy a 3DS or 3DS XL or DSi XL. But honestly, at this point, I think this thing is worth more now than when it was, you know, last year or the year before, mostly because it's kind of turning into a collector's item. And for me, I never sold my DS Lite. I was in a mode where I was like selling everything I bought because I wanted to recoup the money. The DS Lite is one of those things I would never sell. It means so much to me. The original DS, my PS Vita, my Nintendo Switch, I honestly don't really care too much about it. But the DS Lite definitely has a special meaning in my heart because it's pretty much the console I grew up with. And I'm so glad I never resold it. So for me specifically, it's a little bit different because I kind of grew up with the DS Lite. I used a Game Boy Advance before that, but I wasn't really too much into it. The DS Lite was my first like actual console, and I have so many memories with it. And it's literally so crazy to think that 14 years ago this thing came out, and 12 years ago I actually got it. I remember playing games like Super Mario 64 and New Super Mario Bros. That was actually the first game I ever got for it. And I was playing that Crash Bandicoot game that I think it was a Mind Over Warped. I don't really remember the name of it, but it was the most trashiest game. I don't know why they ever made that. They should have never made it. The PSP version of that game was like way better. I don't know why whatever. But if you're trying to find a console that will last you forever and everything, obviously don't get a DS Lite. If you can get one though, I would 100% recommend you getting it. You know, if you can pick one up for less than like $15, then 100% go for it. You can probably even get a R4 card or like whatever those other ones are with it for super cheap. But if you can, just get a DSi XL. Those are also much cheaper. Or you can even get a 2DS or 2DS XL if you want to. I've literally reviewed all of these consoles that I'm talking about. So if you want another in-depth review, just like how I did for this one, you can go just type in Simple Alpaca Nintendo 2DS XL review or whatever, and my video will come up. So that really pretty much covers it. If you guys have any questions or if you used the Nintendo DS Lite before, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear your opinion or just your use case with it, how you used it, all those things. or even let me know your favorite games down in the comment section below. I'm always trying to, expand my gaming library. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out, but more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.